This week on Mountaineer Gameday Extra, we're looking ahead to West Virginia's Thursday night clash with unbeaten Baylor.
And after a wild weekend in the Big 12, can the Mountaineers pull off an upset of their own? We'll discuss and answer your questions on MGD Extra.
Angelica Trenone and Nick Farrell here with you for a brand new episode of Mountaineer Gameday Extra as we get ready for West Virginia's Halloween night matchup against the number 12 team in the nation, Baylor. Now, this isn't the typical Baylor team of years past. If you look at what head coach Matt Rhule has really done with this program, it has turned things around really from a year ago. In his first year with the program, started the season 0-8. That is also the first time West Virginia got a win in Waco since joining the Big 12 Conference. And that one really didn't come easy. It was the first time that we really saw what Charlie Brewer was made of. He was a freshman put in that situation, really helped spark some points there for Baylor as they fell to West Virginia by only 2 points in that game. And then, of course, Nick, if you go back to the game last year, also a Thursday night matchup here in Morgantown between these two teams, things were totally different. That one was all West Virginia and all Will Greer. And if you look at what Charlie Brewer was able to do for the Bears in that game, well, it really wasn't much help from him.
No, you're right, Angelica. It's an incredible turnaround in Charlie Brewer's career from the point of that West Virginia game to where the Mountaineers are going to find him now on this Halloween showdown in Waco. Really, you can look at that game at Milan Puskar Stadium last year as a turning point of sorts for Brewer. He was 1 for 8 in that game, threw 3 interceptions, and got yanked. He started 11 games since. He has a 9-2 record. That includes the 7-0 start for the Bears so far this season. He's passed for over 3,000 yards in the time since that game at Milan Puskar Stadium a year ago, and he's only thrown 6 interceptions, including just 3 this season, and they've all come in one game against Texas Tech. Now, that was a game that the Red Raiders nearly won. It was nearly an upset of the Bears, but Baylor was able to hang on and get the job done. So when you look at Brewer and you look at this team, there's an avenue for West Virginia to win this game. Takeaways, it's got to be part of West Virginia's formula for a victory. And good news for the Mountaineers, Keith Washington, West Virginia's interceptions leader, he has 3 on the year. He's going to be back for WVU after missing the last 2 games. But maybe that's one of Brewer's only weaknesses. I mean, this is a guy that has played really good football so far this season and has kind of flown under the radar among Big 12 quarterbacks. You've seen West Virginia go through this gauntlet of tough opponents and very good quarterbacks in Sam Ehlinger, then Brock Purdy, and then Jalen Hurts. Well, Brewer is up there among the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. In fact, if you look at a mid-season ranking from Pro Football Focus College, it rated Brewer as the number 21 quarterback in the country. So he's not in that elite caliber of Big 12 quarterbacks of the 3 that West Virginia has just faced, but he's right there knocking on the door as a guy that can be in that upper echelon of quarterbacks in college football. So West Virginia is going to have a really tough challenge on its hands, once again facing another very good quarterback that is a whole lot different than he was a year ago.
Yeah, Coach Brown had said that he had thought, like you had said, that Charlie Brewer was flying under the radar a little bit. He said one thing that makes him different from those 3 quarterbacks that you named that West Virginia has faced recently is while he can run, he is a mobile quarterback. It isn't by design. It's by his ability to be able to extend broken plays, which is something that could take him to that elite level. And really, when you look at the game that I had talked about 2 years ago, him coming in there as a true freshman, even Matt Rhule said it himself. He said Charlie Brewer went in there, he played loose, he kind of played frantic, and he played like he had absolutely nothing to lose because he was thrown in that situation. He said going from that game into this season, they learned a lot of lessons in those 2 matchups previously up against West Virginia, and he had said that is the way that Charlie Brewer is playing now, and certainly a guy that this team is focused around for Baylor, but defensively as well. They're a team that is really tough too. Right now, they lead the Big 12s in sacks and scoring defense. They're averaging 19 points per game defensively there. A very tough unit. James Lynch actually leads the Big 12 in sacks. He's got 10, and he's second in the conference in TFLs. And this is a team that has over a dozen sacks and close to 30 TFLs too, so you can see really what he can produce there. Another phase, really solid in special teams, 8 blocks in the past 11 games. And listening to Coach Rhule's press conference earlier in the week, he had said since he really came on board, an emphasis was in that second half of his first season, they had to put more attention to detail on special teams. He said he thinks it was something that maybe he took for granted in year one with Baylor. He had said since they have done that, he's a guy, he doesn't like special teams meetings. That's what he said. He said, now I'm forcing myself to be in the special teams meetings. I'm forcing myself to have a more active role in that phase, and boy, has it really paid off there for West Virginia, has it paid off for Baylor. Now for WVU, of course, this could be a statement win for this program. If you look back to the 2014 season, WVU did beat Baylor as an underdog. BU was ranked the number 4 team in the country. And Nick, if you look at the way that things went in the Big 12 last weekend, while both West Virginia and Baylor had their idle week, well, who really knows? At this point, it seems anybody can beat anyone on any given day. Yeah, no kidding. Last weekend in the Big 12 was crazy, and I know that a lot of WVU fans, and maybe even some of the players, have looked to that to say, okay, if so many upsets can occur on one Saturday, what can happen for us on a Thursday night, a Halloween road game against the team that currently is number 1 in the Big 12 Conference? Let's take a look at the standings because they were really shaken up last week. 3 teams were upset: Oklahoma, Texas, and Iowa State. All of those teams ranked last week. All of them went down. For Oklahoma, that meant the end of its unbeaten run to start this campaign, knocking the Sooners down to number 10 in the country, while Texas and Iowa State both dropped out of the national polls. Kansas State was the team that upset Oklahoma and moved into the top 25. So now that means you find Baylor all alone at number 1 in the Big 12, the only unbeaten team left in the conference, and right now, all of a sudden, the front runner to earn a championship berth to the Big 12 championship game. But when we talk to some of West Virginia's players and even head coach Neil Brown, they look to that wild weekend in the Big 12 to say, hey, even though we were off last weekend, why can't we get in on the fun at Baylor?
Obviously, anybody can beat anybody. We would have liked to have been the Kansas State, 2 weeks ago. So, really the Big 12 Conference is, it's kind of a wild card every week. You never know what you're going to get out of a team, and obviously anybody can beat anybody. So, it kind of brings in that thing where we may be 3 and 4. Doesn't really matter what week it is. You can win.
This is a league. From top to bottom, I think that's really good. I've known that for a long time. I think that depending on what Saturday you play or Thursday you play, I think anybody's capable of beating anybody. And so college football, man, you're dealing with 17 to 23-year-olds. If y'all get that figured out, let me know.
So that's the pulse on the Mountaineers. Now let's turn our attention back to the Baylor Bears, and we'll welcome in Matt Roberts, the sports director at Fox 44 in Waco. He has covered the Bears throughout their unbeaten start to the 2019 season. So Matt, as we just heard, West Virginia very optimistic after that trend in the Big 12 last weekend of underdogs upsetting ranked teams. But now Baylor is a frontrunner to be in the Big 12 championship game come December. Have you gotten the sense, being around the program, that the Bears can really sense that they have that open road to a championship berth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've done a really good job this year, and that's kind of been their mantra dating back to when they were 1-11 a couple years ago. It's kind of just worry about this week. And, we asked, when they first got ranked a couple weeks ago, we asked one of their running backs, and he's either a really good actor or he legitimately did not know that Baylor was ranked that week. So I think they really try to limit the outside noise, and I think they've done that better than most teams that I've been around. But yeah, they absolutely know and watching this weekend to what was happening to teams around the Big 12. I don't think it necessarily heightens their focus, but they know that anyone in this league can beat you on any given day if you don't play your best and you don't play in all 3 areas. So if anything, it kind of reinforced kind of what Matt Rule has been saying, that, Oklahoma looked unbeatable all season long, and then Kansas State just plays good football, focuses on what they needed to do that day, and they beat, what people thought was, nearly an untouchable team in the Big 12 Conference. So, yeah, I think that was definitely a good thing for that team to see, and a good teaching moment for Matt Rule.
It's amazing this team is undefeated this season, Matt, especially after just 2 years ago, it was only a 1-win team in the first year under Matt Rule. Made it to a bowl game last year, won the Texas Bowl. But what's the biggest difference that you've seen that's gotten this team to where it is now?
Yeah, I think you first have to look at the depth of this team. They're at a point now where they've sustained some injuries. I mean, they lost Clay Johnson a couple weeks ago, their leading tackler. They go to Oklahoma State and shut down Spencer Sanders and, for the most part, Chuba Hubbard, and really did a good job of containing those guys. They have the numbers on this team to withstand some of those injuries. You're not having to play 18, 19-year-old kids. You're playing kids that are ready to play. And I think that's kind of the biggest difference that I've seen from this team this year. I think also one other big thing about this team and why they're successful is because, obviously they're older and they're deeper, but they really have not changed their mindset. We talked about their, just wanting to go 1-0 each week and focusing on that week. That's something that they preached all throughout that 1-11 season as they're getting run up and down the field by teams. But they were losing, and Matt Rule's he's a big process guy, and just said, hey, stick with the process. Well, they did it. They've kind of climbed up out of this hole. Well, now that they're 7-0, undefeated in the Big 12, what you're hearing out of them is the same things you heard from them when they were 1-11, was just trying to take care of business, focusing on themselves, not letting outside factors, influence the game on the field. And it's really all about football. It's always been about football, and I think that's a huge reason for the big resurgence the last couple of years.
Chatting with Matt Roberts, sports director at Fox 44 in Waco. Matt, last time WVU fans saw Charlie Brewer, he looked like a much different quarterback for the Bears. Threw 3 interceptions last year against the Mountaineers and got pulled from the game early. But now he seems to have developed some consistency this season as a junior. What stood out to you about his recent play?
Charlie, you can see his growth and his experience. The moment is not too big for him. I mean, he really kind of got thrown to the wolves 2 years ago against West Virginia down here in Waco when it looked like, that game was well out of hand for Baylor, and he kind of brought him in and led him back. And I think that's just something that he's gotten more and more comfortable with each week, and he's not necessarily going to let a bad performance ruin his season or get him off track. What he's going to do is he's going to prepare. He's going to be sharper each week that he goes out there. He's got a bunch of experienced guys around him, and he's already a really, really talented guy. So just understanding this offense with another year under his belt and just knowing with all that experience that he doesn't have to panic.
All right, Matt, thanks for joining us on MGD Extra. We're going to have complete coverage of WVU versus Baylor from Waco this Friday and Saturday on a new episode of The Neil Brown Show. We'll bring you Coach Brown's thoughts immediately following either a win or loss at Baylor, plus a complete recap of the game and much more. Again, that's all coming up Friday and Saturday on The Neil Brown Show. Check your local listings for details.
A midweek game needs a midweek airing of Mountaineer Game Day. We will be coming to you live from Waco on AT&T Sports Net from 6 to 7. Then you can also catch us on your local Nexstar station leading right up to kickoff. Our coverage begins 7 to 8 p.m., which is the kick time there for West Virginia and Baylor. So, of course, make sure to check your local listings.
And a big thanks, as always, to the folks over at the Varsity Club. Catering services for MGD Extra provided by the Varsity Club Sports Tavern of Morgantown. And this week, we got to eat at the Varsity Club because we had a little bit of a different schedule this week. So Thanks to everybody. Allison, big thanks. Our waitress, everybody at the Varsity Club's wonderful and always treats us so well. And they even treat Sam well, even though, Samwell, right? Samwell Tully from Game of Thrones. No, you guys didn't watch Game of Thrones. Get out of here. Sam's here. What do you got for us this week on Ask MGD Extra?
Got quite a few questions this week. A lot of excitement for the Baylor game, but we're going to look into the future.
Okay.
We're going to get our crystal balls out if you guys want to.
Okay.
Mike Carpenter asks, what do you think is a realistic rebuilding plan for Coach Brown and the Mountaineers?
That's a loaded question. You want to go first, or am I taking this one?
You go right ahead.
So one thing that everyone should look for this week on the Neil Brown Show is a conversation with Coach Brown, between Tony Caridi and Coach Brown, about recruiting. Because I think that something that's often overlooked about this year's WVU team is that while Coach Brown, this is the first year of a new era for WVU football, he hasn't had much of a fingerprint yet on West Virginia football recruiting. And that's because he came into the picture last January after the most recent freshman class was put together. Now, that said, players like Ollie Jennings and Tyke Smith, who are true freshmen, have come in and made an immediate impact for WVU, so that's great. West Virginia does have some studs in that last recruiting class that have already made their presence felt. However, for Brown, this upcoming class, the 2020 recruiting class, is really valuable. And he said this a number of times at the podium during his weekly press conferences, that the 2020 class for the Mountaineers is really important because it's the first time that Brown and his entire staff are going to be able to put together a recruiting class. You've seen some of the guys that Brown brought in that were graduate transfers for this season. Sean Ryan is hurt. George Campbell has had a magnificent impact on special teams. Josh Groudon as well has been incredible on special teams. Reuben Jones on the defensive line, right? So the guys that Brown has brought in as graduate transfers have made a major impact. We just haven't seen what this staff is capable of yet recruiting-wise. So I think that is going to be the most telling part about this rebuild. I mean, I can't look into a crystal ball and say that West Virginia is going to be playing in a BCS Bowl in a couple of years. I mean, or a BCS Bowl. Are they even called that anymore? Right. No, a major bowl game. Right, fans will have big expectations for WVU, but I think that is when we'll start to see the pieces come together when National Signing Day is coming up in December. That'll be a really big moment for WVU and Coach Brown and his staff.
Yeah, I think if we're going to talk about, the future, really building a foundation for what this team could be, I mean, all you have to do is look at what Coach Roll has done in Baylor. He came in there, took over a Baylor program, like I said earlier, started the season in his first year. 0-8, only had the one win. I think went 1-11 that year. And if you look at the things that Coach Rule is really about there in Waco, it's so similar to the things that Coach Brown has said here. He's got, of course, his pillars of success that he lays out for the players. Everything is focused around family and football as well. This is a program who obviously some discipline in there. He likes consistency. And if you look, Coach Roll's kind of about the same things. They're similar, and you can throw Matt Campbell from Iowa State in there as well. He did the same thing there with the Cyclones, that when you have these coaches that do have such a, for lack of a better term, let's say like a clear-cut approach, a clear-cut, like those tiers, those pillars like I was talking about. He had said, I think they lost just a few, maybe even one from the class whenever the staff switched over, like the guys that would be freshmen and everything now. So that has to say something about what these guys can do in the future, that people that committed to a completely different staff still felt that Coach Brown and his staff were the correct fit for them, and could really help them be successful. So I think that you have to look at really the way that we've already seen the culture change, that if he can have that big of a shift in the way that guys are buying in the way that they're practicing different, in the way that they're treating academics different, then I think, just like Coach Roll at Waco, that it should be, I don't want to say quick because I don't want you to think I mean like now these last 5 games of the season, all of a sudden this program's going to flip on its head and be something different. But I don't see why it couldn't be next year, like you talk about getting those grad transfers in here and everything like that. But Coach Brown has said for him it's really important to get freshmen in here and build them from their freshman to senior year and build them within the program. Now, of course, we will see some of those guys next year, but freshmen have stepped up big for WVU this year. So who's to say that it can't be a different elevated level of success when he does have some guys that he and his staff really went out there and recruited. So I think, trust the climb, we say here every week. But I think that I don't see why it couldn't be in the next year, why it couldn't be in the season, after that. He seems to be so far doing everything right, and why it may not be the success that fans are used to seeing with this program. There are little things this year that we're not doing moral victories, I know that. But I'm just saying there are little things this year that I think really are pointing upward and trending in that direction to see that turnaround.
You bring up the Coach Rule comparison. I mean, let's be honest, the situation at Baylor in 2017 is a lot different than the situation
I was just meaning a new head coach coming. Head coach coming in.
I'm kind of agreeing with you by saying, Coach Brown has a better situation, a better platform to start off on.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, moving on to Thursday, we're going to get a little specific from Dave Sherrard. Are y'all wearing a costume on Thursday?
We thought about it.
Yeah, we did talk about it, and we figured that since they check our bags on the way in, like that we wouldn't be able to bring a
right.
If somebody brings a scary mask into a stadium. Oh yeah, well you have your famous pizza costume.
Yeah,
right?
I've got a slice of pizza that I got at Target. I mean, it's literally a piece of pizza. You just put it over your head. When I was working at WBOI doing Friday night sports, Friday was a Halloween, and I was the only one anchoring. And I think most people thought I would just wear it for like the first segment, be like, oh, it's a pizza, it's Halloween, great. and I wore it like all 30 minutes.
Well,
And every
when are you
time it
gonna
just
take
kept
it
coming
off,
back.
though, right?
Well,
'Cause
that
the
was the
breaks are
thing,
only
right?
2 minutes,
Because
yeah.
then I was committed because I put a red undershirt underneath to match the pepperoni that was on the pizza. So it was like a whole big thing. So I thought about bringing the pizza, but again, but here's the thing. They're doing their trick or treat and
I
everything at
think a
Baylor
pizza
before the
would
game.
be-
So I think
yeah.
if we like brought in a little costume like that,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Not like a like a creepy mask.
Yeah,
or-
right. You couldn't do something scary
Yeah.
into a football
no,
game,
yeah,
right?
no.
I mean, I just don't think. Maybe they'll let fans.
Maybe
I don't know.
I'll bring the pizza.
All right.
Maybe I'll make
That's funny.
That's right.
The folks at TSA. I guess you like imagine a bag check with a.
Yeah, I would
like, what are
definitely.
these-
The
what is this
pizza,
person
the pizza
doing?
would have to go as a carry-on.
So just my opinion though, like I've never really
Yeah.
been into Halloween, you know. Not saying that you shouldn't be into Halloween. I've just never really
Yeah, I
been
think
into it.
right. We were talking about this earlier. I think it's one of those things. It's only really fun if you can dress up and enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're gonna be. I keep even forgetting that it's going to be Halloween just because we've been so immersed in all of this football
Right.
happening.
Although-
but I think it is one of those. I'm sure when we get there, we will be remembered. Because, like I said, they're encouraging people to wear
Right.
costumes to this game. We
Right.
saw on the Baylor website something that we were talking about earlier too. I believe that Thursday, all Baylor students don't have any classes past noon, so they're encouraging a great atmosphere. And what are they calling it? Growloween.
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 A spooky spectacular. That's what Baylor's calling it.
Although
So we'll see.
Maybe we should dress up as like WVU coaches. Do you think you could be?
Oh, Nikki Izzo Brown
Nikki
for
Izzo
sure.
Brown?
I would be a good Nikki Izzo Brown.
I don't know who I would be. I don't know.
I think
like,
you would. I think you would be a good Neil Brown.
See, that's yeah. I mean, all I would need is kind of like a visor and
Yeah.
a polo, WVU polo. You kind of pull that off pretty quickly. You don't think I could do like a half zip and be Coach Hugs and just carry a stool around everywhere and
think
just sit
here's
it down
no.
and sit on it?
What
and
you
yell at
could do, what you could do is just get a tracksuit, put on a little mustache, and then you're Coach
Carey. Well, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Gotta get a broken
Yeah.
clipboard as well.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Throw that
Yeah.
in
All
there.
right, time
Yeah.
to move on.
Moving on. All right, we're gonna stick with Halloween though. What's your guys'
Okay.
favorite candy? That's from Robbie Parker.
Are we talking favorite candy
Favorite
or
candy.
like favorite candy you would get in Halloween? Because I think it's two different things.
Okay.
Let's do both. Let's do both.
All right.
Why
So
not?
favorite Halloween candy that you
Yeah.
can get. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know what it is about like the little mini Snickers, but they're so good. The little mini Snickers are so good, and I'm also someone who I am a huge fan of like Laffy Taffy and Airheads.
Really?
Yeah.
The song or the candy? Laffy Taffy.
Okay, the candy. Little things like that, but if we're going like favorite, well, I say that they're two different because my new favorite candy is a merge of both of my favorite
yeah, this
candies.
is
I
good.
was
You
telling
told
you
me
about
this.
this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Take 5 has always been my favorite type of candy bar.
Okay.
It's like got the pretzel and the caramel and everything like that. But I also have been, I mean, who doesn't like Reese Cups, right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
But now the two have merged together. So it's the Reese Cup with the peanut butter and then the Take 5 is underneath of it. So now it's just one glorious treat. And I don't know
pretty good.
if they're going to be, well, I say I don't know if they'll be available at Halloween candy. I bought a bag of the Halloween candy for myself, so I do know that it is available.
It
But
may not be available for anybody else.
yeah, but I think the mini Snickers though hit the spot for me if I was like
Okay.
a young kid.
Angelica had the intention of handing out the Take 5 Reese's
Right.
combos.
I'm like, what if kids come?
But then she
Knowing
realized
no
that
kids
she's
would
gonna be
even
in
come to
Waco.
my apartment. Yeah.
By the way, it's pronounced Reese's and not Reese's. I'm just gonna get on my soapbox here for about 15 seconds.
what'd I say?
I don't know if you.
the pieces,
But people
Reese's
say
Pieces.
Reese's Pieces, and that's just wrong. It's Reese's Pieces. I'm looking at you, wife at home, Kara. It's wrong. So my favorite candy though is probably if I was gonna go trick or treating to get candy, probably Reese's Pumpkins, and then
elite.
at Easter it's Reese's Eggs, and
gonna
at
say.
Christmas it's Reese's Trees.
Trees.
I mean it's a slam dunk every season. Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
One other soapboxy thing though about Halloween candy. Candy corn has such
Ew,
a
no,
bad
no, 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 no,
reputation,
no.
and it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
fact
Candy
that
If
corn
you're
is not
passing
that
out,
bad.
the fact that he's saying people would like pass it out at Halloween.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Oh, you
fine.
I think so.
That's 100%.
Not that bad. It's a
Candy
terrible
corn
way
and
to
I-
do it.
those
I like
orange,
it. I
those
like
orange
candy
peanuts. Those
Circus
orange
peanuts now. I love
yeah.
circus
Okay.
peanuts. I do love circus
Okay,
peanuts.
we've got it.
I
We've
also
got it.
love marshmallow peeps, the Easter candy.
Dude.
Yeah,
You're-
those are
you're-
good.
you're nuts.
Those are
Yeah.
good. No,
You're
come
a
on,
Okay.
come on. I
so
just have a
next
wholesome
week,
family.
Nick's not going to be here because we've sent him somewhere else. Yes, please. We got to funnel out of this candy.
I'm a big fan of Reese's Pieces, by the
Oh
way.
my
And
gosh.
that's not
Yeah.
even to get on his nerves. That's legitimately what I like. But the eggs, I think, once you
Just
get
the right
Easter's
ratio
on,
of chocolate and
it's
peanut
perfect.
butter.
Yes.
Yep.
Bliss. But those won't
Reese's.
come around for a couple of months, so I guess we're stuck without them.
Put them in the freezer
Pumpkins
and
and
save
trees
them.
first.
Pumpkins and trees first, exactly.
Hold
Stick
you
with the
over.
vegetation. But that's it for me.
Okay,
That's it
then.
for me.
Yeah,
So,
thanks, man.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm glad
You
you're
don't
here.
you don't have any candy to hand out now, though. I thought
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was
it
the
was
point
Halloween
of
like I
asking this
thought it was
question. Is
gonna.
that you were going to
No,
go
I
get our
don't-
favorite candy
I
and
don't,
bring
I
it back
don't- I
before
don't
the end of
have
the show?
any not that bad candy corn.
Well, I'm going to go get some candy corn after this before we end the work day. I'm going to bring it to Waco, and I'm going to eat it on the sidelines.
Wait, I
And you'll
forgot
be the only
something.
person
What?
eating
I
it.
forgot
Oh,
something.
you got to shamelessly plug us.
I got to shamelessly
Yep.
plug us, but just make sure you're liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter at WV Illustrated. West Virginia Illustrated is our Facebook page, and ask our questions. Ask MGD Extra. We'll be back next week as always.
You wouldn't have stumbled there if you ate more candy corn. It helps your vocal
Little sugar,
cords.
little
It
sugar.
absolutely
Yeah, you're
does.
right. It's been a long
Wolfman, checking in with him for his Hal of the Week.
It's your MGD Extra. Wolves, come on, let me hear it now. Yeah, how baby. And this week it is true freshman Tyke Smith. Now I'm going to show you 3 plays, okay? 2 are good plays and 1 is not so good. But again, against Oklahoma, Prairie on the Palace, this is a learning tool for all of those true freshmen that are playing. And we have so many of here, right? But let's take a look here at Tyke Smith here. Okay, the defensive line and backers are going to cause problems for the Oklahoma running back, and Tyke's going to come up and get a TFL right here. Let's check it out. Again, he's a true freshman. He's playing right there, out there, Prairie on the Palace, baby. He comes in, he's getting the TFL. Let's take a look at the next play. So again, you want to see a youngster out here in front of a wild crowd, in front of probably the best offense that I've seen this year, for sure. But here's Tyke Smith. Again, he is a true freshman. He is getting one learning lesson after the next. This kid's going to be good. Right here, he's going to come in again. He's going to see it. He's going to follow. Again, now he is cutback right here. His responsibility is to be the cutback. So that running back, as he does this right here, he's following his rules of key, gets in there, makes the tackle. And the last play. So finishing up, I want to say this right now. Tyke Smith is going to be very talented and have a very promising future. But right here, you're going to see him out here at the spear position here. Look, hey, there's Nick Troy Fortune. He's only started the last 2 games. He's a true freshman. These guys are getting learning experiences that are going to last them through their college and maybe above and beyond career right here. Here we go, roll it. Here, you're going to see him out. He's going to come out here. He's going to pick up. Oh, the crossing route is here. He's just a little bit late. And he's run into a great throw and a great athlete right here to catch the ball. And guess what? That's a touchdown. That stinks. That's giving it up. That's a learning lesson that he will remember. True freshman. Tyke Smith got a great future ahead of him. Also, Nick Troy Fortune as well. Kerry Martin. I mean, the list keeps going on and on and on. And that, my friends, is your MGD Extra. The Wolves. I'm hearing it. There you go. How, baby? Boom!
That about does it this week on MGD Extra, but we want to remind you that while you can find us on WVIllustrated.com and the West Virginia Illustrated Facebook page, you can now also find us on your Roku TV and Apple TV devices if you search for WVU Sports. And while you're online, make sure you're following us on social media on Facebook and Twitter, and download the WV Illustrated app as we keep you covered all the way through West Virginia's matchup with number 12 Baylor.
And don't forget, since that game is on a Thursday night, that means that our Mountaineer Game Day program will also be on Thursday. We start live in Waco at 6 p.m. on AT&T Sportsnet, and we've got you covered all the way up to the 8 p.m. kick. Nick and I will be in Texas, while Scott and Amanda will be right here at the desk, getting you more ready for that Halloween clash between the unbeaten Bears and West Virginia. Thanks for being with us this week right here on Mountaineer Game Day Extra. We'll see you next weekend to get you ready for WVU versus Texas Tech. Halloween candy all over the tree.
Oh my God! What a guy!
No candy corn. Thanks, Mom.
I do like Tootsie Pops though.